All right, I'm excited to share with you this really cool transfer that has really helped so many people, including myself, to be able to assist patients with transferring, but making sure that I'm giving a majority of the work to them and I'm actually doing less. So when you do this transfer accurately, you should not be feeling a lot of strain or stress, especially on your lower back. What you should feel is that it is easy, okay? So a couple of foundational pieces that you need to understand. You need to go back and watch principles 1, 2, and 3 on the channel, but make sure that you understand those because that's important. Then when it comes to the transfer, there's specific mechanics or pieces that have to be understood. First is that from your wrist to your fingertips, that's going to be nice and stiff. That's the part that's going to be in contact with the lower back and the body. This piece, if I have it loose, then what's going to happen is I'm going to feel them slide a whole lot more. And I'm not going to feel like I have a good grip on the individual. The second piece is that I need to have from my wrist to my trunk be loose. So if you imagine your arms being more like a rope, if there's no tension, then the rope can be moved just like this, okay? As soon as tension is applied, then the rope becomes taut. And really, in the direction that the pull is happening, then that's the direction that things are gonna be moved, okay? So when you do this, you shouldn't see much bend in the elbow, okay? Not like this. You should see the elbows pretty straight and not anything like lifting. You're not doing any lifting. So that's principle number 2. Number 3 is that you need to understand that this isn't lifting, so your shoulders don't go up, and ultimately the movement is happening down at your hips, at your pelvis. So where your femur attaches to your hips, that is where you're going to pretend your trunk and your body are a door on a hinge. And so it looks like this, where if I move from here, it's going to just tilt back, okay? It's what I oftentimes see is people doing it from their middle of their back. So it looks like that. And so they're actually lifting with extension in their spine. That's going to be something that's going to cause injury quicker as you do these transfers. But if you lock everything so that it's nice and stiff, and then you move through the hips as like a door on a hinge, and you just go back, that's all the movement that's going to be necessary for helping the person get up off of the bed. When it comes to this transfer that you're going to see in just a minute, you have to make sure that you are paying attention to really principle number 3. Just as a reminder, principle number 3 is where the knees translate forward. You have to allow for some of that translation in order for you to really maximize what this transfer is capable of doing. If you don't, and then you start going back, you're going to have to be taking care of a lot more of their weight being pulled backwards by gravity, versus if you allow that translation forward, you're going to be able to really get some of that weight that's being pulled down through gravity to come through the patient's bones, and you're not going to have to be the one that lifts that much. All right, so for this particular transfer, our goal is to make it so that the individual is going to carry majority of their weight, and you as the individual helping with the transfer, not having to lift the individual. That's one of the things that as I teach people this, they're really surprised at how easy this transfer actually can be. Now, for individuals who have some form of paralysis from the waist down, one of the things that's really going to be important, that's going to be a little bit different from some of the other transfers, things like stroke or just plain debility, is that you're going to want to have the feet being in front of the knees, okay? Usually when we set things up is that you want the feet to be just a little bit behind the knees, or below. But when it comes to a spinal cord injury, or if somebody has paralysis, epidural, and they're not really giving you a whole lot with their legs, then what you're going to want is to have those feet being a little bit far forward. With this particular transfer, we're not going to do a stand. We're going to do a scoot multiple times in order to get from the chair to, or the bed to the wheelchair. When somebody is going to transfer, you want to make sure that their shoulders and their head are going in the opposite direction where their bottom is going. If they're going in the same direction, then it's much more difficult for the person to actually scoot their bum in the direction you're wanting them to go. So with this, I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to find John's waist right here, his hips, and I'm actually going to come around to the small part of his back, and then he's going to put his arms around my shoulders. I'm going to make sure my hands are stiff, my arms are loose, my trunk is loose, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt back. That's it. Now, if somebody is having a hard time with giving any weight or giving any strength through their legs, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pinch my legs together so that the hinge point is right here at the knees, and so you get the hips to come up over the knees right here instead of down at the ankles. So as I do this again with John, hands right here, nice and stiff, loose in the arms, okay? I'm going to start tilting back, and then as John doesn't give me much, I'm going to pinch his knees and see I can get him over those knees, and then I can turn just a little bit. I'm going to adjust the feet, adjust myself, and again, arms over, okay? Stiff hands, loose arms, loose trunk, and I'm just going to hinge back into those knees, and then I can go into the chair. All right, so some of the patients that we work with are a little bit bigger, and our body types are maybe a little bit smaller. And when that happens, it can be really difficult to get your hands around the patient and to get it into the position that I showed during that first transfer. So I'm going to show you an adaptation that you can use to assist you in this transfer with somebody who is either a little bit bigger or you are a little bit shorter or smaller and you need to have that extra bit of help. This also is really valuable when helping somebody who has some form of paralysis. When I do a transfer with somebody that has paralysis, I will typically use this modification. So you can do it by first getting a towel. You can do it by getting a gait belt. Either one is going to work. What you want to do is you want to place the towel so it's just behind the ischial tuberosities. So as John, I'm going to have him lean to your left, there you go. And going to get it right underneath that part of his bottom where the ischial tuberosity is, and then coming down that other side. So now this is where I have it, okay? It's right underneath that part of the bottom where if I come back, I'm going to have enough of his bottom and the leverage to really go in this direction that if he sits down, I'm not going to lose anything. So again, with somebody who has more paralysis, I'm going to want to have their feet out in front of them. And just as a reminder, it is okay to do many scoots, okay? You don't have to do just one scoot. And so, especially right now with John, we're gonna do just one scoot. And so it's the exact same technique that we did before. except now I'm holding onto the towel instead of the trunk. And I am going to want John to lean as far forward as he can, arms around me. And the more that I can get him to lean forward, the easier it's going to be for me. So as I grab onto the towel here, then all I'm going to do is I'm going to start leaning back to there, and I squeeze my legs, and then I'm going to arm around, and then the same exact thing here, where I just tilt back right there, and then sit on down.
At this point, you have now had a step-by-step instruction on how to utilize this low bottom scoot transfer sitting in a chair technique. It's important to note that you should not be doing this transfer with the patient unless you have practiced this transfer with many people who are not patients and who are not currently experiencing issues. I would like to suggest that you find others that you work with and practice this transfer with them on multiple different surfaces. One of the things that I've done is practiced it with individuals coming on and off the toilet, on and off a tub transfer bench, on and off the bed, on and off the wheelchair, on and off a couch. The more comfortable you can be doing this with somebody who is not a impaired individual, the more comfortable you will be when you actually try it with someone. One big piece that I would also do is make sure that you use this transfer with another nurse who is behind helping assist the first time that you do this with somebody. As you do it more and more, you will find that this technique is really easy and you will not need that person behind to assist in the future.